Hi, I'm Judy.
And I'm Tim.
Today we want to spend a little bit of time giving you some decorating tips and making sure that it is very easy for you to put your cornice together. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that you have the correct supplies. You're going to need a ruler or straight edge, some kind of a cutting device, a hacksaw blade or a tip-off knife that expands to 4 inches. You're going to need a pair of scissors to cut your fabric with, and you're going to need a tape measure, either a metal one or a fabric one will work for that. And you're going to need a screwdriver and a small power drill. If you do not already have a glue gun, you need to have a low temperature glue gun and multi-temp glue sticks. Let's open our window kit, Tim. The mounting brackets that you need for hanging it, all of the screws and anchors that you need, and your magic tuck tool. You get your 2 end caps, one for each end of your cornice, and you have 3 16-inch extension pieces because this window kit will complete a 48-inch cornice. Now, the first step is to measure your window. So Tim's going to take our tape measure.
Thank you.
And he's going to go measure the window for us. Now, the exact measurement of your window needs to be either to the edge of the window or to the edge of the molding or the outside of your curtain, whichever is the widest. Tim?
Our window here is 36 inches.
Okay, 36 inches. Now you want to have a minimum of 1 inch on each side of your window before the inside of your cornice. And if you want to hang a drape or some shears or something like that on the sides, you're going to want to leave a little more room than that. It's a matter of personal taste, exactly how far you want it to go. So the next part is to take that measurement and apply it to your cornice pieces. So line them up on your table, get your measuring device, and measure exactly the distance that you need. Now I'm going to use a 38-inch distance here. So I'm going to take and mark at 38 inches exactly what I want. That way I can go ahead and I can cut my piece, draw a line to use as a guide, right across where I've had that mark made. And I like using a hacksaw blade because it gives me a nice straight cut all the way across. You just use a slow sawing motion and go all the way through the whole cornice board. Of course, because we're using something a little bit rough, you're going to have just a little bit of a rough edge on this. One of my favorite tricks is to use a piece of aluminum foil. Tim, can you pull off a piece for us there?
I sure can.
And we're going to wrap that around the end of the cornice. Now, see how rough that is? Let's show you what the magic is. We put the tin foil on. You've got that old iron heated up. And you're just going to touch the iron to the tin foil. Now, if you happen to have made a crooked cut, you can even straighten it with this. Remember, these cornices are mistake-proof. There's not much you have to do in order to get them to look absolutely perfect.
Isn't that amazing?
Now we're going to show you how you're going to glue your cornices together. We're going to put the glue on the end of the cornice pieces, following the pattern of the cornice itself. You want to put a good liberal amount of glue on, so that you have a good tight bond. Go across the center a couple of times like that. And then you're going to be sure that you match the front of the cornice most carefully. Slide it together a little bit so that you spread your glue out, and then hold it for a few seconds to make sure that it sets before you play with it some more. Okay, now we're going to put the glue on this end so we can put the end cap on. And again, you're going to make sure that you line it up straight with the end of your cornice. and hold it for a couple of seconds until the glue sets. Okay, now let's do the other end. Okay, that's all there is to building your cornice kit. You now have the frame all made and you're ready to do your decorating. Now, let me talk a little bit about fabrics. You can purchase fabrics that are already made and ready to go together. You can get solids that match your prints. You can get prints that match each other. That way, you can create a real look for your windows. You will want to do different widths of strips. In order to know how wide your strip should be, take your tape measure, insert it into the tuck groove, bring the tape measure around and into the bottom of that tuck groove. Now, I've got 6.5 inches there. If I'm using a tapestry fabric like this, I'm going to make that strip about 7.5 to 8 inches wide, preferably 8 inches because I'd rather trim a little bit off if I need to. But I'm not going to make it very much wider than that because then there's too much fabric to tuck into the tuck groove. If I'm using a lightweight fabric like this cotton here, I'm going to make that strip 8.5 to 9 inches wide because I'm going to need more fabric to put down in that tuck groove. Recognize that that tuck groove is pre-cut. It is a certain width, and all the fabrics are going to go into there because it stretches just a little bit. Your fabrics are going to come a standard 54 inches for a home decorating fabric. In order to determine the amount of fabric that you need to purchase, if you're going to do one strip of fabric, the entire width of your cornice, you need the width of the inside of your cornice plus 27 inches. And that extra 27 inches is because you need to make a little hem here. You're going around the outside, so you're adding some distance there, and around to the other side with a hem. So figure that you need the width of your window plus 27 inches. Okay, now we're ready to decorate the cornice. This is the really fun part. We measured our rails a little bit earlier and found that we needed to have a strip that would go in 6.5 inches. I've cut these strips already, and I've cut them 8 inches because this fabric is a little bit on the thin side and I want to make sure that I have plenty to go around. Lay the strip of fabric across the front of the rail and just simply tuck it in. All the way across like that. Isn't that simple? When you're going to do your corner, you want to have left your fabric far enough over the edge that you can make a little bit of a fold so that when it goes to the wall, you have a nice finished look. And then you're just going to, again, tuck that fabric into there. And then see where this little pleat is right here? You're going to use that pleat on its own to just tuck right in, and that's how you take care of that little bit of extra fabric there. Okay, see, we have a nice, neat corner. Let's do that one more time. We're going to fold under a little bit on the edge, tuck it into the tuck groove. We've got our little pleat right here. Tuck that in. Make sure everything's tidy across the front, and we're finished with that. Now you're going to decorate the outside rails of your cornice first, this one and this one, unless you are gathering these rails. And people don't gather those rails nearly as often as they do the middle. So that kind of makes it an easy approach. Then you're going to take the end of the fabric strip, you're going to bring it across the top of your cornice. Take your scissors and following the inside of the front, make one snip right into the corner like that. Now you've got a little flap hanging down here. Take that flap, tuck it into that tuck groove. Push all the fabric in. Now you're going to take the front, bring it across like this, making sure that it's nice and smooth and tight. And again, follow the inside of the cornice into the corner. Now, I like to take my scissors and cut a little tiny bit off like that because this is going to be folded under the front. That way you get a very nice, neat corner. So take the little flap here, tuck it in, bring your fabric across, and look at that. You have a hard, crisp corner that your fabric is going to look like it has been sewn and somebody has spent a great deal of money to create a professional cornice for you. Let's do the other side. Cut into the corner. Tuck it in. Bring the front across nice and straight. Cut it off. Cut a little bit off there. And wrap it just like a package. When you tuck your fabric into here, I always tell people that the foam has a little bit of what I call a memory. And when you get that all tucked into there, it pulls the fabric tight and crisp. Now, to do the middle, we're basically going to do the same thing. Again, I've got my fabric strip all cut. We're going to lay it across the cornice. Now, pretend that I've got this rail finished, okay? Just tuck your fabric in like this on both sides. And then when you do your end, you're going to do this very same thing. You're going to create a little tiny pleat right here and tuck it in. Just like that. Now, if your fabric pulls just a little bit, don't worry about it. Just tuck it back in again. That is one of the beauties of using this particular product. There is no mistake that you can make that can't be corrected. Now I'm going to come to this side. I'm going to make my little pleats again and tuck the fabric in. Make my little hem. And voila, my cornice is 3/4 decorated. Now, I want to show you a little bit about doing gathers. I have a cornice here that I have done the rails on already. So my first 2 rails are done. There's a number of different ways of doing gathers. If you want to have a very loose gather, look how wide I've cut this. Now I'm going to take my tuck tool and I'm going to use just the little corner of it here, push the fabric in and pull it together. There is no sewing machine in the entire world that can work quite as well or quite as fast as this one does. Just continue pressing the fabric down into that tuck groove, like that. Come back and tidy it up just a little bit so you don't have any loose ends showing. And then come across to the other side and once again, just tuck your fabric in. Now this gives you a nice, big, fat gather. And with this kind of a fabric, that's very attractive. Let's say you get tired of that. Now you're going to cut a more narrow strip of the same fabric. Go back again, do your little gathers, all the way across. Only this time, they're going to be very tight gathers. They're going to lay real flat against our cornice. Now, isn't that fun? Now, a couple of other things about doing your decorating. Cording always comes as available with a tape on it like this. And you're going to take that tape and you're just going to tuck it right into the tuck groove. Just like that. It stays in place, it's perfectly straight, and you'll see when we look at some of our finished cornices in a little while how straight that stays. You can't even begin to sew anything quite that straight. Another thing that's really fun right now are the beads, and of course they come on a tape as well. And you can just tuck those right into that very same tuck groove. It's pure magic. Isn't that great? So, putting the cornice together is very, very easy. Decorating it will only take you a very short period of time. And you don't need any glue to put it on with. You're just going to put the fabrics in. And the reason for that is that when you get tired of that, you can pull it off and you can redecorate it with something else. I want to give you a few decorating tips, some ideas that you may want to apply when you're decorating your cornice. We talked about gathers. There are a couple of other ways of doing gathers that I have found really fun, so I want to show you those. I'm going to decorate one side first, then I'm going to take this and I'm going to pull it off at an angle. You have to have a wide strip to do this with. Now I'm going to take this side and I'm going to pull it a little closer together. So that what I'm doing is I'm pulling my angles so that I get a different looking gather. See how that pulls over to the side like that? That way I get little spaces in between those gathers. And it just makes kind of a fun effect compared to what you're normally going to get when you do the regular gathers. So you just get a completely different look when you pull your fabric in different directions. You can also do pleats. And to do a pleat, what you're going to do is take your fabric, make a fold, tuck it in, make another fold, tuck it in. Now, if you're very particular, you may want to use a ruler and measure those. On the other hand, there's nothing wrong with them being just a little bit irregular. Remember, this cornice is going to be way up there at 8 feet. Now come back to the other side and tuck that fabric in like that. That's really easy. And then again, no matter what you're doing, you can always put your cordings in. And they just create such a wonderful offset for the way the cornice looks. We want to show you a little bit also about doing self-cordings, because a lot of people don't want something that detracts from the beauty of their fabric. You can buy cording like this at all the fabric stores. You don't have to sew to do this either. Cut yourself a little strip of fabric, wrap it around that cording, and you're just going to do the same thing. You're going to tuck it right into that tuck groove. And that way you get a cording that absolutely matches your fabric. Or you can use a contrasting fabric and you still get the same effect, just like that. Another thing that you can do is take a strip of that same fabric that's a little bit wider, and you can make it without any cording and create another kind of an offset. Do some gathers. Come to the other side, take the other side of that fabric, stick it in there like that, and you've made a gathered cording for yourself. You can also put paints on, as long as they are a water-based paint that will not affect the fact that this is an expanded polystyrene, because oil-based paints will melt the product itself. Now you can put a primer coat on here and use other kinds of paints, but you have to be pretty careful with that. Put it on a part that you don't worry about. Test it first and make sure that it's not going to be a problem. Another thing that I really love to use is the wallpaper borders. You can take any wallpaper border, and I prefer to use the ones that are pre-pasted. What you do is you cut it to fit for your cornice, pretty much the right size, dip it in the water, which softens it, and then you're going to put it on the surface, and again, just use your tuck tool to put it right down in there. And there's a million different kinds of borders that you can get. They are really, really popular. Here we have a cornice that we did with the wallpaper border, and then we used just some plain old boat rope to put on it for trim. Another thing that's real popular is using tassels. The tassels can look absolutely fabulous. Now, obviously, this is a very small little piece we're demonstrating on, but there's a lot of ways to do this. You can bring the tassel around the sides and have it hanging down. You can have it hanging way down from your cornice like that. Keep your eye open for tassels that you really like. They can be very expensive, but if you go to the right stores, you can find them very reasonably priced. Now that you've finished decorating your cornice, the next thing you're going to do is hang it. First of all, I want to mention that you can decorate the back of your cornice so that if it is seen through a sliding glass door or from a front window or something like that, you get a completely finished look. Okay, you've got your mounting brackets, you've got your screws and anchors that came in your window kit. We're going to look at the detail of how to hang that in just a moment. However, I want to make sure you understand how to use the mounting bracket. This little curved place right here goes into that back tuck groove that you just used to put your fabric into. So you're going to put the mounting brackets on the wall. You're going to have a minimum of 2 for any cornice. As your cornice gets wider, you're going to have a bracket for about every 32 inches of space that you're using. Put all those brackets up, and all you're going to do is push the cornice onto the brackets. It's as easy as that, and they're very strong and very sturdy. Now remember, you also don't need to find a stud to mount this on because the product is so lightweight. A cornice that is 10 feet long isn't going to weigh more than about 5 or 6 pounds. You will, however, need to have somebody to help you balance one end of it. It's pretty hard to hang a wide cornice all by yourself.
Judy showed you how the hardware fit into the back side of the cornice. Now we're going to show you how to hang the cornice on the wall. If you take a tape measure and you measure up from the bottom of the corner to the groove in the back where your hardware is going to fit, you'll find that in this cornice it's about 10 inches right there. Now we're going to transpose that 10 inches onto the wall and presume that for a moment, if you will, that you want your cornice to hang 4 inches below the edge of the window. We'll deduct 4 inches from the 10 inches that you measured on the cornice, which gives us 6 inches to the top of the bracket right there. So 6 inches from the top of the window to the bottom of the bracket. We'll make a mark there. And I'm going to do that over here. We'll come up 6 inches, put a little mark on the wall. Then we'll take the hardware, and we'll hold it on the wall right there and put a little mark where your screws are going to go. Mark at the top of the screw hole, one at the bottom. And take a 3/16 inch drill bit, drill a little hole in there, and that's where you're going to put your anchor. Now we've already done that over here. You can see we've got our 3/16 inch hole right there. We'll take the plastic anchor, pop it in the hole, and tap it in with the hammer. Once you've got it in there, then you're ready to go ahead and mount the bracket on the wall. Get your screw started. Go ahead and drive that screw on home. Put your other screw in. Then you're ready to hang the cornice on the wall. The only thing you really need to do here is adjust your cornice so that it's centered over the window. When it looks like you have it evened up on there, then go ahead and grip that piece of hardware, that flange on the hardware with your fingers, and pull it right into the back side of that cornice. Now, of course, for windows that you're decorating that are over 48 inches wide, you'll have extra hardware and install a piece of hardware every 3 feet.
One of the things that you may be using for your windows is a bay or corner adapter. Let me give you a little bit of information on how to use that. This is your bay window adapter piece. They come as 2 in a kit along with 4 mounting brackets. What you're going to do is you're going to glue them together as a part of the cornice as you make it. So you're going to use that same glue gun. You're going to build the whole cornice before you decorate it. Then you're going to take your pieces and you're going to lay the cornice flat to decorate it. Do all of your tucking exactly the way you would have if you were not doing a bay, if it were just a straight cornice. Then when you get to putting it up on the window, you're going to have put 1 bracket at each of those angles, whether it be the full corner or whether it be that angled bay, so that 1 bracket falls here and 1 falls here. And when you put it up, it will automatically bend to whatever your bay angle is. Now don't forget, this accommodates for exactly what your window is, all the way up to that 90-degree corner angle. So you're going to be able to bend it to fit exactly for your window. Then when you get it all hung, now I've got a little piece here that I've got decorated. You're going to get up on your little step ladder and you're going to take your tuck tool and your fingers and you're just going to tidy it up and make it look perfect. Now, if you need to take a T-pin right there at the bottom and the top and stick it in there to make that corner look perfect, then that's a good option as well. And your cording and everything is just going to go right in the grooves the way it normally would. So your bay adapter can be used either for a regular standard bay because it has the two pieces in it, or it can be used for that full corner. I know you're going to have just as much fun decorating your cornices as we do.
And remember, your only limitation is your imagination. Happy decorating.